Start off chapter 14. While we go through this, I'm going to try to do a spreadsheet side by side with this. We'll save it, upload it to the lectures up for my section, and let's begin. So we're going to cover some scenarios, but we'll pick up on some other things as we go too. As part of doing this side by side, we'll kind of do a little bit of a review of what we did from last week. And let's see, we can wrap this up quickly. So first thing we have is conditional formatting. I mentioned that last week also. So let's see if we can put together conditional formatting and see how this works. So I'm going to type this in pretty quickly. So lower speed limit 45 and upper speed limit 65, car 1. Okay, so for car 1, you can see there's 4 cars here, so let's see if we can drag this down. Okay, so Excel is smart enough to realize that you want car 1, 2, 3, and 4. And let's put in some speed limits here. So 55, 67, 42, and 100. So let's do some quick formatting here. So you might remember from last week, we select both columns. If I do this, it kind of sizes up both columns. Let me just kind of do this for now. Now if I want to pick all of the rows, I do something similar. I resize the rows, and you can see it sized all of them. Another thing I want to do is I want to center all these guys. So let me go back to here. I'm going to do center there and center there. Okay, so that kind of lines it up pretty quickly here. Let's do some formatting here. Let's make these letters blue and make them bold. Okay, let's set this background here. Let's fill it maybe a little bit darker gray. All right, that looks all right. Let's take all the cars. Let's fill that to sort of like a cream color, I guess that is. Just like that. So now what's left is over here. So this is what we're going to do with the conditional formatting. So you can see right up here, you can see conditional formatting. So let me select this here. And the first thing we want to do is for everything that is below the lower speed limit, let's say. You can see there's a whole bunch of different options here, but they all point to something where you're going to have some formatting based on some criteria. So in this case, less than. Okay. So in this case, anything that's less than 45, let me select that cell. Let's use the green color here. And this is what I got. Okay, so that makes sense. You got 45 miles an hour is the lower speed limit. Car 3 is at 42, so that picks that up. Okay, maybe I should have used a different color, but let's go with the green color anyway. So I'm here. Now I'm going to highlight that same range again. Let's go to the next thing we want to do. I'm going to highlight the cells that are greater than. So if they're greater than the upper speed limit of 65, let's make them red. So that picks up these guys here. All right, the last bit we want is if it's in between. So let's go here, we highlight the range again, conditional formatting, and you can see it between here. So the first part here is that B1, this one, and we wanted that blanked out there. We have B2. Let's make that, we got this yellow color here. and we're done. Okay, I hate when it does that. So this is not what I wanted to happen, obviously. So let's see what happened here. So I'm going to highlight this range here. I'm going to go to Manage Rules. And what you'll see is all the rules that are applied to this range. Okay, so let's see what's going on here. We edit this rule, and okay, so I don't know what happened here, why I did that. So I actually only wanted the, I'm just going to type this in manually. I'm going to just say, I don't even need the $B, $2, but I'll just put it in there anyway, just like that. Okay, so that should have fixed it. So let's see what happens. Alright, so now that fixed it. Right, so the between, I had a little bit of a typo there, so that's why I blew up this thing here. So this is exactly right. So we have the 3 rules. Just as a reminder, I'll come back to here, manage rules. You got that. Okay, so the yellow is for in between, the red is for greater, and the green is for less. Okay, you can edit the rules, you can delete the rules, so whatever you want. But basically this is conditional formatting. So let's go back over here to the PowerPoint. Yeah, so this probably pretty much covers what I just covered here on the sheet here. So again, I'm going to save this sheet, chapter 14 samples. That'll be uploaded, and you'll get that in my uploads. So the next part here we're going to cover quickly is the what if analysis. The what if analysis, basically you're plugging in some different numbers. I mean, normally you probably do that manually, you play around with it, maybe you come up with a formula or whatever to try to come up with these numbers. So Excel tries to give you a couple of little tools to help you with that process. So the first thing here, we have this goal seeker. So let me go over to this tab that I set up already. And I'm not going to do too much fancy formatting here. I think you guys got a bit of that formatting. You should have that down pretty well. So here, let me do the final grade. So the final grade, you would expect that to be an average of all these guys here. So let me do a function called equals average. Okay, and over all of this. Okay, so the main thing here is we want to probably try to target a final grade and say what does the final exam have to be to hit that grade. Okay, so it's off of this formula here that we're going to work off of. So let me go over here to data, and you'll see this section here, what if analysis. And in this case, we want to do a goal seeker. We're trying to hit a goal. So let's go to here. So let's say we have in this final grade, which is B7, let's say we want to try to get to a 70. All right, and what cell are we trying to have input? So all these numbers are already set, so you can't do anything about that. So the only thing you have left is your final exam. So that's the number we're going to play with there. So you set that, and let's see what happens when I click that. Okay, so first off, you can see it set the final grade to be 70 because that's the target you want to go to. And it's saying that for you to get a 70, the only variable you can change is your final exam. So you have to get at least a 90, or you have to get 90 to get 70 for your final grade. Okay, so once again, let me try that again, see if we can do this goal seek again. So same thing, B7. Let's just maybe bring it down to 69. Okay, and then here we're going to say the B6. So let's see what it would take to get to 69. Okay, so that should sort of makes sense, right? So you're going for a lower final grade, and therefore your final exam, you don't have to get a 90. Now you can get an 85, and you'll end up with a 69. Okay, so that should make sense to you, right? So here, you can come back to here a second. Okay. So let's try to punch this one in. So this is called the scenario manager. Okay. And we do here. So I'll say commute cost. And let's say miles traveled. Let's just say traveled. Cost of gas. Parking. And then total. Okay, again, I'm not going to pretty this up. We'll just punch this in quickly. So travel 205 miles. The cost of gas was $2.79. And the parking was $10. And so let's set the total cost. It would be your miles traveled multiply by the cost of gas, and then you add in your parking, and you got $581.95. Okay, so that looks good. Let me just save this. All right, so now let's go to your what-ifs analysis, and we go to scenario manager. Okay, so we have this, and let me do this. Okay, let me say what happens. Well, I'm going to call this a scenario, and I'm going to shoot for a scenario where I say what's the cost of gas, what happens to my total cost if I set my cost of gas to $3. So let me call this gas 3, and the changing cells. Give me here. Okay. Actually, that's not what I wanted. I wanted that. Okay. And let's set that to be 3. Okay. And actually, for now, let's just show it. Let's see what happens just to keep it simple. And you can see it changes to 3. And then, of course, the total would automatically recalc because of the formula. Okay, so that's one scenario we punched in already. Let's do this. Let's add 2 more scenarios. Well, I'm going to call this gas 4. And same thing here. And I'm going to set this to be 4. Okay. And then I'm going to add gas 5. Okay, so now I have 3 different scenarios, gas at 3, 4, and 5. Okay, now this is where it's good. You can hit summary, and what it does is it creates a whole new tab called scenario summary, and you'll see your different scenarios, right? So of course this is what it was right now, and then you have at $3, $4, and $5 what the totals would be here. Okay, so that's pretty much what the scenario summary looks like, and it's stored so you can continue to play around with it. Okay, so you can continue to play with this, add more scenarios and whatnot. So you go back to here again, and look at the scenario manager, you can still see all these scenarios are still saved. So you can continue to play around with this, store up a whole bunch of scenarios. And that's something that you can play around with also. Okay. So here, all right. So this scenario manager is pretty much what I just showed you, where it's showing how you can modify the current sheet, or if you hit the summary, it'll create a new worksheet to show you all the different scenarios. Okay. All right. There's another quick thing in terms of named ranges or named cells, and filtering. Filtering I kind of did quite a bit last week, so I'm not going to do too much with that. Let me do like some names here. I'm going to try to keep these separate here. Let's see if I kind of say gas, food, water. Okay. So I do something like this, food, and something like that. What I can do is I can go to this point right here where this is gas. So one thing you can refer to this as B18. But the other thing you can do is define a name. You can see right mouse click, define a name. I'm going to call it gas, right? Like that. Okay. Now if I go to here, you can see there's gas here. Okay. Let me name these just so you can get that. So define a name, food, good, and then define a name, water. Okay. So what I got is food, gas, and water. So I could refer to these cells by, usually what you refer to them in Excel would be the column and the row, and that gets to that. Or I can refer to it by these names. So let's say I want to say equals gas plus food plus water, and I get 8.5. Okay. So it's just another way of referring to these cells here. Maybe it would be easier for people to think of it as gas, food, and water, as opposed to be thinking about it as B18, B19, B20. Okay, and likewise, you can name a range of cells to be something. So let's say Monday, Tuesday, and just say, you know, some sort of allowance spent or something like that. So let's say $3, $4, something like that. Just kind of messing around here a little bit. So here, and drag this down a little bit. Here, and we do that. Okay. So now I'm going to take this whole range here, and let's call this whole range something. Let's call it lunch money. Okay. So number one, you can see lunch money is in here along with these other names that I've set up. Now I can refer to this range. So normally what might be something I might do across this range here. Maybe I would do average. So let me do an average, and Let me see if it finds my lunch money here. It does find lunch money, okay? And you can see it automatically highlights that range that I labeled as lunch money. And there you go. It calculates the average there, okay? Just as a reminder from last week, go back here. I can mess around with the decimals and chop them off just like so. Okay, let me put $1 here. There you go. Okay, so that's what's meant by these named ranges, or in this case up here, I did a named cell. Okay, and I think that's where I'm going to wrap it up for now. I'm going to create a separate lecture for statistical functions. Okay, thank you for your time today.